In the early years of the 16th century, sails appeared on the horizon of the Yucatan coast. Spanish ships, armed with steel, gunpowder, and foreign gods, entered the world of the Maya. For cities already weakened by centuries of rivalry and shifting power, these strangers represented a threat unlike any they had faced before. At first, encounters were uncertain. Some Maya towns exchanged goods, curious about horses, metal tools, and glass beads. Others met the newcomers with spears and obsidian blades, determined to defend their lands. Yet even where no battle was fought, invisible enemies arrived. Diseases carried across the sea, sweeping through villages with devastating force. The Spanish spoke of empire and conversion, of kings across the ocean, and a single god who demanded obedience. The Maya, heirs to millennia of tradition, measured these claims against their own gods and ancestors. To them, the strangers were powerful, but not invincible. Resistance flared in jungle strongholds, while some rulers offered tribute to buy time. This was the beginning of a clash of worlds: stone cities and steel swords, maize fields and muskets, ancient calendars and Christian crosses. The first contact was not yet conquest, but the tide of history had shifted. The age of isolation was over, and a new, uncertain chapter had begun. As the 16th century unfolded, the Spanish push into Maya lands turned from contact to conquest. No longer content with trade or tribute, they launched campaigns to bring city after city under their control. Steel swords clashed against obsidian blades, and the thunder of muskets echoed through plazas once meant for rituals and festivals. Horses, beasts the Maya had never known, charged into battle, breaking the lines of warriors who had defended their homelands for generations. Against this new kind of warfare, courage was not enough. The political world of the Maya unraveled. Dynasties that had ruled for centuries were toppled, their sacred authority stripped away. In the north, cities like Chichen Itza and Mayapan, once proud centers of power, fell silent. In the south, jungle strongholds resisted fiercely, but even they could not withstand the combined toll of war, disease, and betrayal. Temples were burned, palaces abandoned, and stelae toppled into the earth. What had once been the chessboard of kings became a battlefield of ruins. For the Maya, these were years of upheaval, an ending not written in prophecy, but carved in fire and blood. Yet even as cities crumbled, the people endured. Though their kingdoms fell, their spirit would not vanish, carrying the story of survival into the centuries that followed. Even as much of the Maya world fell under Spanish control, one kingdom stood apart: Tayasal, the city of the Itza, rising from the waters of Lake Petén Itza. Here, Ajkan Ek, the last great Maya king, held fast against the tide of conquest. From his island capital, he ruled with the traditions of his ancestors. Councils met in ceremonial plazas, rituals honored the gods, and warriors stood guard along the lake's causeways. To outsiders, Tayasal seemed both remote and unconquerable, a fortress of stone and spirit where the old ways endured. The Spanish called Ajkan Ek defiant, but to his people, he was a protector. For decades, he skillfully balanced resistance with diplomacy, offering words when war was costly and steel when peace was broken. His kingdom became a beacon for Maya who refused to yield, a living reminder that their civilization was not yet gone. While empires shifted around them, Tayasal remained independent, the last great stronghold of Maya power. Its temples still echoed with chants, its kingship still cloaked in divine authority. In an age when so much had been lost, Ajkan Ek and his people stood as proof that the Maya spirit could not be conquered by sword or cross alone. In 1697, the long struggle of Maya independence reached its final chapter. Spanish ships sailed across Lake Petén Itzá, cannons aimed at the island city of Tayasal. For centuries it had stood unconquered, its temples gleaming above the waters, its kings ruling in defiance of foreign empires. But now, the storm had come. Khan Ek and his warriors resisted fiercely, defending causeways and plazas as they had for generations. Yet against gunpowder, steel, and warships, even the strongest hearts could not prevail. The city was overrun, its palaces torn down, its temples repurposed or destroyed. With the fall of Tayasal, the last independent Maya kingdom was extinguished. For the survivors, there was no victory. Families were forced from their homes, relocated into Spanish towns, where foreign rulers sought to break their traditions and reshape their lives. Yet conquest was not the same as erasure. In hidden villages and remote forests, the Maya continued to honor their gods, speak their languages, and carry forward the rhythms of their ancestors. The fall of Tayasal was not just the collapse of a city, but the closing of an age, the end of kingdoms that had once ruled the jungles of Mesoamerica. But even in defeat, the spirit of the Maya endured, waiting for the centuries yet to come. Though their cities had fallen and their kings were gone, the Maya people endured. In remote highlands, hidden valleys, and forested villages, their culture lived on, not in palaces of stone, but in the rhythms of everyday life. Maya languages continued to be spoken around hearth fires and in crowded marketplaces, each word carrying echoes of an ancient past. Rituals that once filled great plazas now took place in humble shrines, on mountaintops, and at sacred caves. Offerings of maize, candles, and incense were given to the same gods who had been honored for millennia. Astronomy and the sacred calendar survived, no longer inscribed on stelae or codices, but preserved in memory and passed down through generations. Farmers still looked to the stars and the cycles of the sun and moon to guide the planting of maize and the timing of festivals. Myths of creation, of hero twins, and of gods of rain and corn endured in stories told to children by firelight. For the Maya, survival was more than persistence, it was adaptation. Even under foreign rule, they remained connected to their ancestors, to the earth, and to the sacred order of time. Their culture was no longer an empire of cities, but a living heritage, carried forward in the hearts of their people. With the fall of Tayasal, the Spanish crown imposed its order across the Maya world. Churches rose where temples once stood. Priests carried crosses into plazas, and foreign governors demanded tribute and labor. Christianity, new systems of rule, and the weight of empire pressed upon every community. Yet the Maya did not simply surrender their identity. Instead, they adapted, weaving old beliefs into new forms. Saints were honored alongside ancient gods. Festivals blended Catholic prayers with rituals for rain and maize. And sacred mountains and caves remained places of devotion even when cloaked in Christian symbols. This blending, known as syncretism, allowed the Maya to preserve the heart of their traditions while appearing to embrace the new. Calendars and ceremonies continued in secret, hidden within the rhythms of colonial life. Stories of gods and ancestors were whispered behind closed doors, ensuring that memory outlasted conquest. Through adaptation, Maya cultures survived. Though the shape of rituals changed, their meaning endured. Each candle lit at a shrine, each offering of maize, carried echoes of a civilization that refused to vanish. The colonial world sought to reshape the Maya, but instead, the Maya reshaped the colonial world, leaving behind a legacy of resilience, creativity, and unbroken identity. Today, the Maya are not a vanished people, but a living culture of millions, spread across Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. In villages and cities alike, their presence is felt in language, art, and tradition. Threads of identity that have endured through centuries of change. Maya languages are still spoken by families across the region, linking the present to an ancient voice. Weaving tells stories in color and pattern, with every cloth a tapestry of memory, sky, and earth. Music, dance, and ritual blend the old with the new, carrying forward rhythms that echo through generations. In the modern world, Maya communities face challenges: poverty, discrimination, and the pressures of globalization. Yet they also rise with strength and activism, protecting their lands, defending their languages, and preserving sacred traditions. From local councils to international movements, the Maya speak not only for their past, but for their future. The legacy of the Maya is no longer just measured in pyramids or ruined cities, but in the resilience of people who continue to shape their destiny. Their story is not one of disappearance, but of survival and renewal. Proof that an ancient civilization can live on, vibrant and unbroken, in the hearts of its descendants. Across the jungles of Mesoamerica, stone pyramids still rise above the trees, silent witnesses to a civilization of brilliance. At sites like Tikal, Palenque, Copan, and Chichen Itza, the artistry of the Maya endures in temples, stelae, and murals. Echoes of kings, priests, and people who once filled these plazas with life. The codices, though few survive, preserve their knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and prophecy, reminders that the Maya were among the world's greatest thinkers. Their calendars mapped the heavens with astonishing precision, their architecture aligned with the stars, and their stories wove together the human and the divine. But the Maya are not only monuments and ruins, they are a living people, millions strong, who continue to speak their languages, celebrate their festivals, and pass on traditions to their children. In weaving, in song, in prayer, the heart of the Maya world still beats. Their legacy is not frozen in the past, but alive in the present, a testament to resilience, creativity, and human spirit. From ancient kings who carved stone to modern voices defending culture and land, the Maya remind us that civilizations do not simply vanish. They transform, they endure, and they inspire, across centuries and into the future.